Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm Ryan Balmas, sports physical therapist with ENDVR Health.
Hey, and I'm Brian Elder. I am the founder of Roswell Running Co.
This is going to be a jam-packed episode. I'm so excited to have a runner coach. Again, I'm not a runner coach. I'm an avid runner, but this is the kind of guy that you'd want to look out for if all your running and coaching needs. In the podcast episode, we'll be talking about running plans and what he does to really custom tailor it to you. The shoe technology, we talked a little bit about hashtag runner problems here in Atlanta. And so enjoy this episode. What's going on, everyone? I'm Ryan Balmas, sports physical therapist with ENDVR Health, and I have another special guest. This one I'm really excited about because I'm personally a runner. And I always tell my clients I'm not a running coach. There are way smarter people to do that. If you're injured, I could help you there, but if you want to get faster or tweak your skills in terms of plans, you are the kind of guy that I refer to. So if you could please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Brian Elder, and I am a certified running coach and the person that started Roswell Running Company. So I do custom training plans for runners, and I'm sure we can talk more about that in a minute, but I do custom training plans for runners and sort of help coach runners to perform their best so that when they come to race day they're ready and they're trained and they're good to go.
Yeah. Awesome. And so, like I said before, I tell everyone that I meet, they're like, are you a running coach? Do you do plans? I was like, nah. I do stuff for my personal, but it's not enough for me to do it professionally or even consult with anyone with that. But so one thing I want to start off with as a runner to runner. What got you into running?
I originally got started running kind of by accident. So I, in high school, did a lot of other sports. I played baseball, I played basketball, and one of the main ones I played a lot was basketball. And so my sister was actually the good runner in our family at first, and so she ran cross country. And I knew basketball season was coming up. I had nothing to do, so I was like, might as well get in shape and be ready for basketball season. And I went out and realized I had a gift for it and a natural ability, and that's sort of how I stumbled upon it. And ever since, I've just been running a lot.
Very nice. And you still enjoy it?
Love it. Yeah, I go through seasons, so I'm not one of those people who I coach people that are just diehard runners all the time. They're the kind of people who, they can finish a race and a massive portion of training, and then they're right back at it. But I'm one of those people that I go through cycles. So there's seasons of life where things are busy. But running's the thing that I always come back to. I love it. I've been around it long enough, from the race side to the shoe industry to now coaching for quite a while, that I've seen all sides of it, and it's just a great sport to be a part of, and it's accessible to everyone. So that's one of the great things.
Totally agree. And I like that you mentioned the whole season, having seasons. I find myself doing that too. Like I'm training for the Peachtree, but I had a season, if you will, of I'm going to do a lot of heavy lifting. But it's benefited me now that I'm running.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you're right. There's definitely those flavors of the, I think when I did my sports fellowship a few years back, I met an ultra runner for the first time. And I was like, wow. I thought, marathon running was, it. And then this guy, I worked with this patient, and he exposed me to what ultras are.
Yeah, it's a different community. And that's one of the cool things about running, too, is that, whether it's 5K, whether it's marathon running or ultras, it all kind of blends together and everyone sort of can run together. But then even if you go to trail races or if you go to road races, there's even within that, pockets of people that tend to move together. So that's one of the cool things about it too.
Yeah, you mentioned trail running. When I was in Seattle too, I met I was cool with one of the running sports stores, and the owner was like, oh, if you're new here in Seattle, you should stop running on the road. You need to get back, you need to do trails. I was like, yeah, I guess that would make sense. I'm from Florida, I like running flats, but it's I should run trails. And sure enough, when I did try it, it's a different,
it is.
It's just a different high. Makes you very hyper aware of the trail.
You're always looking.
You're always looking. You can't just kind of just run and go. And take whatever's in front of you for granted. All that. So with the training plans, what's kind of your style? What's your approach? What's kind of your mantra, if you will, in terms of with your coaching?
So training plans are interesting because I understand that you can have access to training plans anywhere. I mean, you can go, anyone can go online, they can purchase a training plan and like that. I mean, just very easily put in your information and you can have a plan sent to you off of anywhere off the internet.
Yeah.
So it's very accessible. But the thing is that sure, those plans, I'm not saying they can't be beneficial to you, especially for someone who's getting into running for like a couch to 5K or something like that. Those things can be beneficial, especially when you haven't built that habit of running. But ultimately, in my opinion, running and coaching runners it's a very delicate balance, and every single runner has individual needs that need to be met. So I mean, if you go in and you get someone in to look at their feet at a running specialty store, everyone has different needs. Their feet are different, and the same is true really with runners in general. So I think that, sure, you can buy a plan online, but our approach is that every single runner we coach is sort of an experiment of one.
Yeah.
They are unique, and we want to treat them that way. And so every single plan that we build is tailored and custom to not only their experience level, but their schedules and their lifestyles.
Yeah.
And so we try and completely customize it so that it fits who you are, what you're doing, and at the same time allows you to show up on race day and perform your best because you've been given a plan that fits who you are and isn't just something you got offline that sort of is just a generic template.
So I think one thing that I've encountered when working with runners is their understanding or maybe misunderstanding of how long it takes to prepare for a race. So let's say maybe not so much for the brand new beginner. I love working with those, but also for those that are like the experienced runner, they have a few races underneath their belt. What's like their kind of like what's the sweet spot for amount of time to train for a race? Let's say maybe like a marathon or something like that.
Okay.
Is it as long as people think it takes, or maybe is it shorter, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think it depends. Again, it
depends.
I can say it's my answer. I'm always going to go back to it. It just depends on the person.
I like it,
because you look at some people and they have a more athletic background. I mean, that some people have done things that are more athletic versus someone who's kind of just gotten into running for the first time. That's the first sport they've ever really participated in. But now they've got a couple races under their belt. It's still going to be different for each person. But I would say just generally speaking, to train for a marathon on average, a safe bet is usually, especially for your first one, I would lean towards a training plan of 5 to 6 months.
Okay. It's about
4 to 6 months, 4 being the minimum, especially for your first one because it is a different race. I mean, it's a completely different race than a half. So it's a great race. I think it's an awesome test of so many things about us as people.
It's definitely more than just physical.
Yeah, it's a lot of mental, but I'd say 4 to 6 months is a good sweet spot.
How many marathons have you ran?
I've done 3 so far.
Nice.
So I just qualified, I guess it's been about a year and a half, 2 years ago in Savannah.
Okay.
And I finished in the top 10 there at Savannah.
Cool.
And then just went to Boston and finished Boston this year.
Awesome.
So,
How was that experience?
It was a really, really good experience. I had a little bit of an issue with my knee going into it, so I didn't perform like I was hoping to. But the thing about Boston is that it's such a well-run event. Everything's so smooth, and the goal is to get there, really.
True. Yeah. So once you're there,
I mean, there's so many steps that even like from the morning you wake up to when you get to the start line, it's a process.
Oh, I bet.
And so you've got time, you're riding on the bus out to the start line and you're sitting next to someone and you hear about this guy that I'm sitting next to. It's his 10th Boston and he's sharing with me some of his experience. Yeah.
It must be nice.
And it's humbling because you realize, man, like I'm not the only one who has worked hard to get here. And these people have put in just as many miles and just as many runs and they're coming back for more and more just because of how great of an event it is, and to be a part of that is really cool.
I've only ran one, and that was tough. And,
which one was it?
L.A.
Okay.
My brother lived there at the time, and he's like, hey, I have 2 other younger brothers. He's like, come out to L.A., let's run the marathon together. So my youngest brother, he was training a lot, Middle brother was thinking more, I'll just like train for like a month and see what happens. You already know where this is headed, right? And then for me, I was training and then I got hurt.
Yeah.
I didn't manage my load properly, and I got a patellar tendonitis issue a month before. And I was like, now it's just like, I just got to take care of what I got, and let's see what happens, right? Because there's no silver bullet once it's that close. And I think that was just more of a humbling experience, my eagerness, recognizing that you really do have to listen to your body and what it tells you. And training is more than the miles that are put out there on the road. It's sleep, nutrition, stress, managing all the things like that.
Definitely.
And you're right. Because once I knew it was going to come, like I had a prediction it would come around like 10 miles. Sure enough, it came. And then I was like, all right, well, just manage it from here.
It's just all will and
all will. All will. Because, for anyone that's ran a marathon before, your first one, you're super excited to just even like, oh, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And then that lasts for like for a couple miles. And then you're like, oh, I got to keep going.
Exactly.
Got to keep going. Or when they say it's a 5K left, it's like, oh, okay, but it's still like a lot. I'm so happy to finish.
Yeah.
PR in a marathon?
PR is 2:54.
Very cool.
2:54.
Very
so
nice.
I'm hoping to eventually, I'm still, like I said, I'm going to take a little bit of a break from the marathon for a while, maybe focus on some other distances, but I'd like to, I should be able to get under 250. That's a goal right now.
Very nice. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah, the PR stuff is just so interesting just because you have it, and then like, what can I do to get back to it? But I think that's why, like, if anyone listening, if you've reached your PRs, but you're still kind of at a loss, right? Like, I don't know where else to go. I think that's where someone like you could come in handy. And with someone with your experience could already kind of talk the talk and kind of understand. And you make perfect sense, like, know that history. Yep. And does it look like more like you kind of take a look at like maybe the errors or maybe what could improve? Like, oh, you've done that, that's great. Yeah. But have you considered this? Is that kind of how you approach it?
Yeah, so what we do is we take we send out, so if someone purchases one of our training plans, we send out a survey to really just collect as much information as possible on who they are as a runner. So that's not only past fitness and where they've been in running, but also like current fitness, because you may have run a 19-minute 5K 2 years ago, but where are you now?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Because just because you ran a 5K at that pace and speed then doesn't mean you're ready to be at that same workload now. So we try and gauge past fitness as well as current fitness, because usually when you look at runners, like I've just started running recently with a guy who was a runner at the University of Arkansas. And we met and we've started running together quite a bit, and he's with our group some. So he currently is not in as good shape as he used to be.
Got it.
But one of the things, we've been running together for a couple weeks now, you can tell because he has that past experience as a runner, he gains it back much quicker.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The number of miles he's put under his legs in the past allow it to sort of regain that much quicker. And if you haven't in the past put as many miles in or done as many races or don't have as much experience, it's harder to regain it. Yeah. So we take that into account, past fitness as well as current fitness, injury history, which I'm sure you know all about and you can speak to better than I can for sure. But we take that into account, so whether you've had issues with any type of tendonitis, whether it's plantar fascia, whether it's shin splints, runner's knee. We take all those things into account to sort of make sure that those things are prevented. So I have a good enough base knowledge where I know usually the things that cause that. So whether it's shoes and someone not running in the proper footwear, whether it's just a little bit of a tweak in form and stride, and then someone overstriding and putting too much strain and pressure on their knees. Yeah. So I try and take all those things into account when they're filling out that information and getting it to us. And we take all of it into account, sort of take a holistic approach and put together a plan that includes all that information as well as schedule. What days off do you prefer? So like I said, it's fully tailored to who you are, so that you don't have to like rearrange anything. We want it to fit who you are.
Yeah, no, that's great. Just because for anyone that's listening, like, you have an idea. There's no doubt you know your body better than anyone, right?
Yep.
But that kind of external coaching,
Exactly.
that third eye to know, take a look at this, look at that. And if you really do love enjoying running, I think there's no better value in seeing that and recognizing like, oh, I could do this a little bit better.
Yep.
And that really kind of unlocks the key to maybe more performance, or maybe you'll be able to run longer than you thought you could.
Yep.
Not necessarily make on the road, but actually like, oh, I'm, let's say 55. Oh, I could probably get in a few more years out of this.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Exactly.
Or maybe unlock maybe like a wall that you've hit. And then with someone like you shows like, yo, you could actually do this a little bit longer, right?
Yeah, so one guy that we're training right now is trying to qualify for Boston, and he just ran a great marathon, but just shy of that qualifying time that he wants to hit. And we're going to start throwing workouts at him that are, again, one of those things, kind of like you said, breaking through a wall, trying to make sure that he's breaking through that pace that he needs to be able to do, and workouts like are tailored specifically for that to increase things like his VO2 max, his like threshold, all those things to help him really get comfortable, and where, again, he could show up on race day and he's confident and knows he's going to finish. Yeah.
So this one question is like for me personally, but I know all the other runners are out there wanting to know, how do you run faster? What's kind of their go-to? Is it intervals? Is it fartleks? Do you just have to try harder? Do you muscle it through? Like what are the things that you like to try and do with your clients?
I had a runner one time tell me that, and he's a very fast runner.
Yeah.
The way you get faster is you run faster.
And there it is, everyone.
That's the secret.
That's it.
That's it. So it sounds, and I'm being very simplistic here, and
that's so true.
But it is. It's one of those things that unless you push yourself to run faster, you're never going to get comfort. And there's ways to do it. There's smart ways to do it. That's the thing. It's not just I'm going to go out and run as hard as I can for as long as I can, because that leads to injury.
Yep.
But there's smart ways to do it, and I think that's where coaching comes in, and is very important, is when, and you can look up things on the internet, but unless you know what to do, like, you're not going to even know what that feels like, what that should feel like when your body approaches it when you go out and run. And so that's one of the things I also try and do, especially with newer runners, is use language that is something they can relate to. So whether it's like conversation pace, and using terminology that they can relate to when they're running. So you should be breathing quickly, or when you're running, say if you're running with someone, this is a pace that you can get in a couple words in while you're running.
True. Yep.
And just get a little bit of information back and forth, but you're going to be breathing hard at the same time. So that doesn't mean you couldn't get a few words across to one another, but it's one of those things we're trying to just use language that relates to how hard you should be breathing, whether you can carry on a conversation with someone else. That can also sort of bridge the gap with someone who's trying to figure out, okay, well, really, how hard should it be? Is it based on effort? Is it based on time? Because there's all different ways in which you can push yourself to. You can do a run at a 5K pace. You can do a run at a 10K pace. You can do it based on 85% of your effort. All those. There's so many things that you can sort of say you want to run, or that pace you want to run at, but again, if you're trying to figure it out on your own and you don't have experience, that's really difficult.
No, that's true. Every time when I think of how I'd want to run faster, I kind of really have really fond memories of high school.
Yep.
Because really, that's what got me into running. I just did cross country because they didn't cut.
Yeah.
Right? Shout out to my coach.
That's right.
Love my coach. And they didn't cut, and so cross country naturally led to track.
Yep.
But those workouts on the track,
brutal. Yeah.
But I never knew that it's like, oh, you could actually push. Like, and, it's like you trust a coach. You got a bunch of guys doing it with you, or the cross country workout, and it's just like, whew. Yeah. Those repeats,
intervals, all those things.
I'd love to do that now. Like, looking back, I was like, oh man.
And that's one of the great things that, if you're someone who's listening and you have a student or someone that is looking for a sport, that's one of the great things about running, is anyone can do it. It's very approachable. You need a pair of shoes, you need a watch, and you just go and you can. It's a team. There's a team element to it, but at the same time, you're competing against yourself, and it's one of those things, kind of like that sign on the wall there. It says, "It's not about being the best; it's about being better than you were yesterday."
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's about pushing yourself to try and get better than you were. And so I think it's a great sport. It builds community and camaraderie. That's awesome for anyone who's looking for that.
Yeah, no, that's one of my fondest memories is understanding what that team camaraderie looks like. And so anytime I visit like the running groups around here in Atlanta, it just kind of feels that same feel. But yeah, like the workouts were just I think my favorite were like maybe like the 400 or 800 repeats, or he would do one where like it would escalate up and then come down.
Pyramid. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yes.
It's one of those ones where like you get there and you don't know what to expect, and he's like, "All right, this is what we're gonna do today," and you're like, "We're doing what?"
Yeah.
And I'm not I wasn't experienced as all the maybe the other guys there, and then when you finish it, you're like, "Whoa,
yep,
I survived."
Exactly.
I actually survived. That wasn't bad.
Yeah. It's one of those things where until you're there and you're doing it, you sort of set this limitation on yourself where I don't know that I can do that. But when you get other people around you, it's really beneficial and helpful when you see someone else next to you pushing themselves. It makes you want to do the same.
That's what's crazy is being pushed and having the trust in someone to know when and how to push and recognize that potential. And that's what I think enjoyable as a runner is once you unlock it to like a new level, you're like, oh, well, if I got that,
what more do I have?
What more do I have in the tank?
Yeah.
Going back, you mentioned you were in the shoe industry. What are your thoughts right now with a lot of where the shoe industry is with running? Because I've lived through the time now to see a trend, and I'd like to think I'm old enough now to see it. And I can only imagine if you're older, if you're watching this, you're like, yeah, I've seen all those trends too. Like I lived through the Vibram days, the barefoot running. Kind of now I feel like plateaued off and now allows consumers to kind of pick and choose where you'd like to go.
Yeah.
And I feel like to me, where the shoe industry is going now is pushing the limits of technology and foam. So you have the React foam, Boost foam, I think a lot of people love. And then, you got the Saucony Ever runs. So what are your thoughts with the running industry so far? And as a runner, it's a good time, I feel like, to be a runner.
It's a great time, honestly, because I feel like right now there are more options available than ever before that I can remember.
Yeah.
There's just resources out there that are great in terms of the shoe industry. And I've seen it. It's one of those things. It's kind of funny. It's almost kind of like politics in the sense of it's almost like an extreme pendulum swing usually. So it's like you mentioned the minimalist running movement, Born to Run, all those things where it's like,
I got caught into it.
Oh yeah,
I got caught. I got it.
Yeah, I get it. People, it's the next thing, right? It's like what's that thing that's going to unlock more potential?
That makes sense. Sure.
Exactly. And so then it goes from there. Then I guess 5 years ago, you start getting shoes like Hoka's coming in, where it's the
when I first saw
opposite.
those, that was crazy.
Yeah, and you get the maximalist. No, you need as much under you as possible to absorb all that shock that's coming down when you're landing. And it's so honestly, right now I think is a cool time because it's kind of in a sense almost evened out a little bit. I
feel like if you're a runner, it's like I've seen all of that, and now I could I'm not wrong either way.
Yeah,
just pick one that like works well for you. Right?
Experiment of one. I mean, what works best for you? What works best for your feet? But the one thing, I'm glad you mentioned the technology side of it. Now I feel like companies and shoe brands are starting to push the newest foam. It's all about kind of like what's inside the shoe.
Yep.
So it's the new foam. It's the design, which I think they're pushing the limits of that, and it's awesome. Whether it's even like the shoes they're coming out with that are self-tying. They're pushing technology, and how can we put as much technology into shoes? Which what's the limit to that? I don't think we know yet necessarily, but it'll be interesting to see where it continues to go, how things are incorporated with it, and that's where I think maybe you'll start getting maybe even more regularly devices and things in shoes that can connect to GPS watches that start working with things like cadence. And I think that's where we may see things start to go eventually. But again, we'll see. We don't know where it's going to go exactly.
I remember when Nike had their Nike Plus system. Not sure why they went away, and you had to put the little insert in. That was awesome. It was so great. And I don't know why they went away with it. Maybe they thought, with GPS technology on the watch, now it already tells your cadence and all that. Maybe that's more accurate. I don't know. But that's what made me think about it in terms of when you're putting tech in there with that. And so, I totally agree. The foam stuff has been interesting. I've not ran in any Boost or React, but for my clients and friends, they say it's like the best.
It is a soft foam, and it's a really, really soft. It has a lot to it. It just feels like you're getting spring back. But again, it's one of those things that it depends on feel. Some people are going to want even like the zero drop shoes that have been a big thing recently with Ultra. So I think it's kind of all over the map right now, which is great for runners because it gives them more options to choose what works best for them.
What is your actually this came to mind, the back to tech. The is it those Cloud9 shoes?
The Clouds, yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on those?
The running store that I was at, we sold them. Yeah. And I know a lot of people that swear by them. And right now, when we were in Boston at the expo, one of the coolest booths there was the Ons. Yeah. And I think they're getting better and better. I personally have not run in them. That's not to say that you can't. I know a lot of people that really do like them. But it is a different design. So one thing I would say is that if you're a trail runner, they're not for you.
Why is that?
Because of the way the bottoms are, is that it's not like a normal running shoe where it's just a full flat bottom. Because of the cloud technology that they use, they kind of run side by side down the shoe.
Got it.
And there's spacing in between them. So if you're on a trail, you're going to get stuff jammed in there all the time. Yeah. But if you're a road runner, I think they're a decent option if they are something that you like.
It's a concept where that cloud, that circle compresses.
It's kind of like it all sort of comes back around. But if it's kind of like back in like the Nike Shock days, it's going to absorb, and that's what every shoe company does. They're looking for some unique way to absorb shock for when you land, and that's their way of doing it. Is the clouds they call them. So,
what's your running shoe rotation right now?
The one shoe I always go back to over and over again is. And they've even pulled back a little bit, I feel like, in the running shoes some, but it's a Mizuno Wave Rider. Okay. So it's just a fast, light, neutral shoe that you can do speed workout. It's just really versatile. You can get mileage in it. You can do speed workouts. So that's one I go back to. I haven't tried Hoka's yet. That's one I'm probably going to be looking at very soon. I know a lot of people who swear by them. They love them. Yeah. And they've also done a better job of sort of honing down the models and designs a little bit where they're not as bulky. Yeah. But I've tried a lot of different shoes, from Brooks to Mizuno to Nike to New Balance. I've tried pretty much all of them, and tried Newton's. So I personally don't have necessarily a go-to shoe, but the one that always seems to come back in my rotation is the Mizuno Wave Rider. But that is one thing that for the runners that are listening that I would highly recommend is rotating your shoes. Yeah. It's good for your feet. Agreed. It's good for your knees so that you're not just getting that same thing every single time you're running. So if you're someone that's putting in a lot of mileage, highly recommend rotating your shoes because it gets you it also too gives that foam more time to
that's what people forget.
Yeah, it gives that foam more time to sort of expand back to its natural position when you're rotating shoes than if you just run in the same pair every single day, and it gets more longevity. Really,
I've been doing that I've been running in the Saucony Everrun, not the Everruns, the Kinvaras. Yeah. And so I give like about a day two break, and I come in there and it's like it feels like new again. Yeah. And I know back in the day I did not rotate my shoes, and you start to feel that dead feel. Yeah. Right? Like it's like Friday and you've been running every day and it feels that dead feel if you're not rotating shoes. So 2-3 pairs, and then I think rotate them, and then
and that's the one thing too that a lot of people forget. And if you are going to rotate pairs of shoes, you can get the last year's model. It's not like anything is gone wrong with them. It's just an upgrade. So you can a lot of times find those cheaper, and you can get 2 pairs for the price of one.
Or for some people, it's a downgrade because they hate what they do to the new model. Exactly. Right? And then so I tell people, like, if you find a shoe that you love, Get as many
pairs.
as you like when they go into discount because they're the last year's model. Get as many as you like because you may never see.
Yeah, it's always changing.
It's always changing. It's like cars, but I guess it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Some runners would love that it changes, but from a business model standpoint, you just don't get that new runner.
Yeah.
If it's always the same. Yeah. Yeah. So what about your? Do you do tips on like race day shoes? I know I get some questions with that. It's like, does that matter? Should they just go with their training shoe that they ran in, or do they do like a race pace type shoe?
I always recommend whatever you've been training in. That's usually the safest bet.
Yeah.
Is if you've been training in something, especially if it's a longer race like a 10K, half marathon, marathon. If you've been training in a shoe, your best and safest bet is to run in the shoe you've been training in. It's gonna be more comfortable. It's going to be just one less thing you really have to think about the day of the race, and it's just the safest bet. But in terms of trainers, there's a lot of great options out there. If you're looking for some lighter weight trainers, you can definitely go that route for shorter distance races like a 5K or 10K, even up to a half.
Yeah.
For runners that are more experienced, and then you can, if you're like a cross-country runner or a high school runner, someone who's running on tracks, you can always grab a pair of spikes as well for shorter workouts or things that deal more with like speed and working on running economy and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I get that question a lot.
Yeah.
And, I personally have like a faster shoe that I go to in because it just feels faster.
Yeah.
It's a little firmer. But I know that limit of where that distance is.
Yeah. Sometimes even, again, it's running is such a mental sport. So if it's that one shoe that you've got that's going to give you that confidence or mental edge going into the race, then do it by all means. I mean, whatever is most comfortable for you, do it. But the reason why I would suggest going with what you've been training is things like blisters.
Yes.
So you go back to like socks.
Yeah.
So wear the socks that you've been running in.
Totally.
Don't change it up.
Don't change it up. Yep.
At Boston this year, the weather was crazy. They were calling for 40 degree temperatures and rain leading up to the race the week out. And by the time we had gotten up there, they were saying it's going to be high 60s. And some rain.
Yeah.
So I had to go. I didn't even bring a pair of shorts. I had to go buy a pair of shorts. It's like, do not recommend that. Bring something or have something that you're used to running in. Don't try and go out and buy something new the day before a race as like a gift to yourself. Do that afterwards.
Yeah, agreed. Don't do, and you bring up a good point. I've mentioned this before, or with my other clients, is test it during training. Like, don't do it the week of the race and add a whole new variable.
Nutrition, everything.
Nutrition, key, because you work so hard to have to add one variable that you have no idea how it's going to work. And then all that work would be for nothing. Not for nothing, but kind of thrown away for this new variable. Yeah. Like running shoe, nutrition.
So if you're training for a race, I've mapped out routes that if I've looked at a race online and I knew water stations were going to be at mile 4 and 6 and 8, I've tried to map out runs where I knew I could get water at mile 4 and mile 8.
I like that.
So
that's great.
That I knew that, okay, my body is going to get used to when I've been running for that distance.
That's right.
That I get some fluids at that distance.
That's right.
Same thing for gels. I mean, making sure that you're taking those at the same time. And again, when you're training, that's when you play with a little bit, change up things, see how your body reacts. But try and be consistent from what you've done in training to the day of the race.
Point. That's what I'm doing right now, training up for the Peachtree. I'm prepared for like the hottest day. So I'm having to push myself to run on hot, uncomfortable days.
If it's anything like the last week, it's going to be hot.
Yeah, like where it's like it's an easy run, but I need to feel this heat. I need to know what my body's going to do. And, I make little notes in my app and all right, 3 miles felt a little hot. Or it felt a little bit, and I need to maybe have nutrition or a water something. But if you're listening and watching, acclimate to this heat. Don't run in you could run in comfortable situations if you need to for your schedule, but if you know that race is going to be a hot race,
you got to train for it.
You need to train in that hotter temperatures.
Yeah. So one runner right now, we're training for the Peachtree. One of the things we're doing to help her acclimate and prepare for the course, and that's one of the things that when we, again, custom training plans, we've got her doing runs specifically for hills because there are areas, at least like mile 4 of the Peachtree, where you've got a long hill that you've got to get up. And we've got simulation runs, like race simulation runs built into her plan to where, where you're going on a run and wherever, map it out however you need to do. But when you hit that 4th mile, you need a long hill at the start of that 4th mile. So it's, again, if you've done it in training and you've done it over and over again, you're going to be prepared and you're going to have that confidence knowing I can do it in the race too.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing, I'm curious if you do this. Do you run with music?
I don't.
Nice.
I do not. And I know this is a controversial thing. People are like, how can you do that? Are you crazy?
Do you think it's more beginners that do that? And I think there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. I just think when you run for so long, like you kind of like, you don't need the music.
I would agree with that completely. I think a lot of people, especially when they're first getting into running, listen to music because they're trying to distract themselves from it. They're like, they come in with the mentality mindset, this is going to be miserable.
Yeah.
I want to run this race, but I know the training isn't going to always be fun. So I'm just going to listen to music and get my mind somewhere else, which is great.
It's fine. Totally fine.
I don't think it's always the safest option, but so that's one thing I would say. If you are listening to music, just be aware of your surroundings. Look before you're crossing a crosswalk and don't trust that a car is going to stop. So make sure you are being safe in that area. But the one thing I've found is that over time, the more I get out, especially if I'm out early in the morning, I just enjoy letting my mind go wherever it is, listening to what's out there. 100%. And I'm out running and on trails or something. And so I've gotten where I enjoy running without music more than with it.
Yeah, I've shared the story before, but my experience with music, I've always been a music guy. Yeah, I've enjoyed actually having the playlist or making it, and I'm gonna enjoy this run. And the first half marathon that I ran during PT school, halfway through the race, it became noise. Yeah, and I couldn't concentrate. And I think part of it, I was almost hitting the wall too. But I couldn't concentrate. I literally tore out the headphones and like tossed them away. They weren't expensive, but like I just tossed them away. And like ever since then, I don't run with music. Yeah, it's been now like that part where I've reached kind of this new level where it's like the run is where you're coming for. Yeah, like I'm not coming for the music. I'm coming for the run.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's therapeutic for a lot of people in a lot of sense. And when you just add music sometimes, most of us, we already have enough noise in our lives. We are sensory overload. Yes. Whether it's our phones, whether it's music driving. So sometimes just to turn that off for a minute, I don't think people, because they're so used to it, I don't think they realize the benefit of that quiet sometimes. Yeah. So if you're out there, try it sometime. Give it up for a run just to see how it goes.
Agreed.
Because I think it can be very beneficial in a lot of ways for people.
I think you'll find maybe some thoughts that maybe you've never thought of. Yeah. And I don't I don't know about you, but when it comes through, sometimes it's a new idea. It gets really creative when I run or work out with no music. You just let it pass by, maybe in whatever sticks at the end of the run, but you just feel like, oh, it's like a sense of really just calm. Yeah. And so if you're listening or watching, try it. Don't try it on your longest run. Yeah. But just try it. Yeah. And have no expectations, right? Yep. It's not some like mind-blowing aura type thing. You just go for the run. Yeah.
Just see what happens.
And just see what happens. Okay. That's great. I always like asking that with different runners, and it's not to poo-poo anyone that listens to music.
No, if you have to do it, then
please do it.
Do it.
Please do it. Yeah. Because my follow-up question, right, if you did listen to music, was like, what's your go-to playlist song?
Oof. Gosh,
for the run?
It depends on the day.
Right.
I could listen to all different kinds of things.
Nice.
So I all over the map. It just depends on the day, I would say.
Yeah. My thanks to my coach from high school, he's got me into like rock music because he would like old school like rock music, and he would play that over the loudspeakers at the track. Yep. I was like, what is this song? But it's pushing me anyway, so I don't care.
That's funny.
Yeah. Well, cool. Nice. Yeah. One of the things in terms of the running, and I think a lot of it, I think because of the community aspect, is there's so many kind of myths out there. Are there any favorite myths of yours that you love to dispel that are out there?
In regards to
anything. Training, running, racing. Things like that.
I would say one, if for people that are listening if you're a hardcore runner, like you run and that's your thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of runners don't see the benefits of strength training.
Yeah.
I know, especially younger runners.
Speaking my language.
Yeah,
man.
I'm just gonna get mileage in, and that's all I need. I just need to push myself aerobically, get my splits down, and I'll be good. But I wish that I had listened to coaches even in other sports that were like, you need to get in the weight room more, and because strength training benefits running so much. It improves your efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
It improves your
That's
body's
running efficiency?
Yes, running efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
It improves your body's ability to carry oxygen to your muscles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of runners forget too that you don't realize how much you use your arms when you run. And you're using muscles. So the stronger they are, the more endurance they're going to have. And so I think strength training is something that's very beneficial, whether it's just with weights or resistance bands.
Mm-hmm.
Body weight exercises
Body
I think
weight
are
is
huge,
a great start.
whether it's planks, whether it's push-ups, pull-ups. I think those three things alone, because that's what I tell a lot of the runners that I coach, is that if you do, and you're obviously putting in a lot of work and you're running, but if you do planks, push-ups, and pull-ups, those three body weight exercises alone, maybe add in lunges as well.
Yeah.
If you do those four things right there, you are setting yourself up for your times to drop dramatically than if you just ran by itself.
You bring up a good point in terms of the seemingly simplicity of the exercises. I remember, because I've preached this all the time, so I love that you're bringing this up. Because when you read some of the studies for strengthening for running, some of the exercises that they use are incredibly simple. Like one simply used leg press and like knee extension machine for like 8 weeks. And it was the most basic of progressions. It was like 3 sets of 10 and they moved up the weight or so. Like any little bit counts for running performance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really crazy how that works. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah. I'm a huge believer in it, especially too I mentioned the seasons thing earlier, where I go through seasons after of a big chunk of training where I'm just a little burnout, maybe just need a somewhat of not a full break from running. I'm still running a couple times a week, but I can't go out there and run 6 times a week, 7 times a week kind of thing. That's where strength training is huge for me. During those recovery times from running, I'm building in strength, and that builds a foundation and a base that's also going to help prevent injury more in the future. Yeah. So I'm a huge believer in it, and I haven't always been. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the things that I bought into the myth that you could just run and you'd be fine. Yeah. And over time, I've seen that, no, there's so many benefits to strength training.
I know personally, it feels like my push-off just feels stronger. It's like more stable, right?
You are more stable.
A lot more stable. Push-off, even kicks, your kicks at the end feel a little bit more like you get into that higher gear.
Yep.
It just feels better, just overall. You're not sloshing through, and your body's like, oh no, I don't have any more strength left.
Yep.
On this run, right?
Exactly. And when you're tired, I think you'll really see the difference if you do start adding strength training, especially when those moments of the race where you're tired, or where you used to be tired and you're struggling to keep pushing. Those moments get a lot easier. In a race. Yeah. So in any run.
True. Any other myths? I love that you brought up the strength training part.
I'd say that's the main one. Yeah. The only other one is I think nutrition. Again, if I'm around a lot of younger runners. Okay. And coach a lot of high school runners. So I think if you see high school, college runners there, a lot of times they don't worry about their nutrition as much. But again, it's one of those things.
They can afford to. Yeah, they can afford to do it, right?
Not everyone can now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You can go cry about that later. But
fair. Yeah.
But I think a lot of high schoolers, they can sort of, I don't need that. Yeah. But even then, it still affects them in some ways, and their ability to kind of, like you said, if you're going to break through that next wall, it may be something as simple as changing or tweaking that little area.
Yeah, so. High schoolers are interesting just because, I've worked with a few, but like you ask them what they ate, and you're like, oh my gosh, how are you still like alert?
Yeah.
I was like, well, that benefits of the youth. There you go.
Exactly.
You're gonna run and then maybe hang out with your friends afterwards. I get it. But nutrition is key. Do you have any one like go-to tip for nutrition that you like, or favorite nutrition tip? Hydration is easy
obviously.
One.
I mean,
Electrolytes.
Yeah.
Longer runs.
Absolutely. Just eating clean. I think. I think there's lots of fad diets out there that people again are kind of like with shoes, always changing. You want the next thing, right?
Yeah.
Same with diets, but if you eat clean, everything in moderation, I think you'll be fine for the most part.
Yeah. And I'm not a registered dietitian. I'll probably have one here on the exactly. So if you're listening and you're a registered dietitian, hit me up. Let's talk.
Exactly.
Love to talk more on that stuff. What's your favorite post-race meal? Like you finished a hard race. What's your go-to meal?
I gotta say, some type of just Mexican dish, whether it's enchiladas or tacos. Something like that is definitely
20 of them.
Oh yeah,
give them
absolutely. As many as I can eat. So definitely that.
Yeah, ice cream for me. Pizza.
Oh, nice.
Pizza and ice cream. Got to go
That's
for
a good one.
It's either that or it's whatever that's in front of me, right? You know, the race, like anything. The bananas, like a ton of bananas.
Absolutely.
Bagels, I'm a sucker for.
Yeah.
Are you a beer drinker after races?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, we're doing a brewery run at in Roswell on next Wednesday. So we love them, and they do a great job. And so they host us once a month, and we just go out there and run a couple miles, just kind of socially all together, and then have a beer after the run. It's great.
Today is Friday, May 31st, and so I will definitely, this will be posted probably Monday or Tuesday. So if you are listening, Wednesday, what was that again?
Wednesday at 6:15. So kind of after work, join us at Variant in Roswell, and that's where we'll be running.
And what type of runs do you do from the brewery?
So we just do kind of a social run. It's a sort of hangout, something different from other runs that we do all together. But it's kind of getting just people out and running together, sort of that, again, communal thing. And we map out different routes for people. So that's one thing. It's a lot of times even just hearing that, I don't really know anybody. Should I show up?
Oh, yeah.
So we try and make it very easy to get into. So we have a one mile route for somebody who's not in the great shape right now, or they're just getting started. Or we have 2-3 mile routes, and then we also meet at a coffee shop in Roswell on Saturdays, and we run from there. And we normally either map out longer routes like 4 to 6 miles, or we'll just all run to get groups of people that run together for different times based on what their schedules are and what they're doing.
That's cool. I'll definitely have to join you for a coffee Saturday morning coffee shop run.
It's great.
For sure.
Got like some breakfast waffles and stuff.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you got me. And if you're listening, right, if you're intimidated by joining a run group or a social group, the one thing that I find has been helpful is that just be open about your pace. Yeah. Right? And just be like, hey, I'm running around a 10-minute mile. Are you running that? And usually people are really nice about it. It's like, no, I'm not, but I know someone who is, right?
Yeah, no one is going to shame you for whatever pace you're at. And that's one of the great things about the running community is that, I mean, again, it's wherever you are at, you're pushing to be your best. Yeah. And people accept that about you. They want to see someone else next to them doing the same thing or having that same common mindset. And so whenever they see that, you're being an encouragement to someone else, whether you realize it or not.
Agreed.
And that's the awesome thing about it. So if you're hesitant about joining a running group, or if you don't know anybody, I would come out, because you don't realize sitting at home the encouragement that you could be to someone if you were there.
That is true. Yeah, that is great. Your very presence showing that like it's okay for someone that maybe isn't as experienced to be there, and that you're welcomed, and that there's a pace and there's a runner that could run with you. It's great, because even like I remember one running with a group nearby here where like even the experienced runners will maybe go with the slower pace because maybe that's what they needed that day.
Exactly.
Right? And then others are looking for, hey, maybe I'm going to try a little bit faster. That's my race or run today. So yeah, wherever you are, it doesn't have to be hard. It could be easy, but in terms of whatever pace you're at, those groups are.
It's great. It gives you end up meeting people that you become friends with. You end up running together during the week. It gives it ends up leading to accountability and getting your runs in and just staying on top of things. So I highly recommend it. I think there's a great aspect to the sport as well there.
How do you think the running community is here in Atlanta?
It's awesome. That's one of the great things about Atlanta, and really one of the reasons why I wanted to start Roswell Running Company was because not only because I had people asking for specific training plans, but where we live in Roswell, there's a huge running community up there.
Yeah.
We have an incredible trail system, whether it's down by the river or some of the local parks in the area. It's incredible. And that's one of the great things about Atlanta too. I mean, you look at the Atlanta Track Club. It's I don't know if they're the largest now or the second largest membership in the entire country.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of great things. Whether it's the Peachtree coming up, whether it's there's always races happening around Atlanta. So I think that's one of the great things about where we are is it's such a hub for running in the Southeast that it's kind of hard to beat.
Yeah.
And Atlanta, when you add things in like the Beltline that's still being developed and eventually will connect all over the place, that's really, really cool.
That'll be cool.
The idea that you could one day start in Edgewood, or you could start over in Old Fourth Ward and hop on the Beltline, and then you could run all the way up down by the Chattahoochee if you really wanted to. I mean,
that would be cool.
It's awesome to think about that one day all those trails and paths could be connected, and I think that's one of the cool things about where it seems like things potentially could be heading.
Yeah. Do you like running in the Beltline?
It's crowded.
Yeah, I was going to say, I go there. When I get to go there, it'll be, if my schedule allows it, like middle of the day, you'll have it all to yourself.
Yeah.
Weekend, forget it.
Yeah, weekend,
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, weekend I wouldn't recommend.
If you're new to Atlanta listening to this or watching, avoid it unless you want to have a lot of zigzags.
Unless you're getting there very, very early or at a very particular time during the week. You're going to be running in zigzags the whole time.
Those are hashtag runner problems here in Atlanta because you run that in the weekend, you'll see tourists or friends that are going 10 wide across the lane.
But then that gives you an excuse to stop off and get ice cream somewhere. Just end your run a little early.
Exactly. A lot of temptations along that run, but it is one of my favorite runs. Piedmont Park, too. Get from Piedmont
it's great.
Down the Beltline, Krog Street and back.
Yeah, Krogs, you can run there. If you even get outside, you can head over to like Sweetwater Park or Creek, and gosh, there's places all over. So it's great. It really is.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, is there anything you want to share more about your company before we end?
If you're just looking for a custom training plan, hit us up and let us know. We're happy to always coach runners. We love working with people, and again, it's one of those things that I'm a firm believer that every single person is an experiment of one. So if you're looking for something that's more custom tailored, more personalized, not sort of just cookie cutter training plan, then we're here to offer that.
Yeah. And how do they find you?
You can go to our website, which is roswellrunningcompany.com, or you can visit any of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and we're pretty quick to respond. So
awesome. And I'll make sure to put that in the show notes as well. So before we end, I asked all my guests this.
All right.
I named my practice ENDVR Health because, first of all, it's not physical therapy. It's more overall health, but from a physical therapist perspective. But that also, every client that I work with has a ultimate endeavor, right? we're not here to work together to address pain or a certain range of motion. There's always something else. Like I need to get this injury done so I could run my 50th marathon, or I need to get this injury over with so I could pick up my grandchild. Like there's always what I call an endeavor. So what is your endeavor in life?
In life?
Yeah.
Man.
Or maybe just in these next 6 months or anything like that.
I would say my endeavor in life is just to enjoy the things that are going on and where I'm at.
Yeah.
Whether it's going out for a run, whether it's sitting at home on the couch doing nothing, trying to find joy in what I'm doing. And I think coaching is one of the ways that I try and do that as well. When I'm building a plan for someone, sometimes I can get too invested into it because I'm wanting to help them see results that it brings them joy.
Yeah.
When they cross that finish line, I know they've put in all that effort and hard work.
Yeah.
And it brings them happiness and joy. So anything that's going to help lead that, stir up those emotions and feelings, I think I'm all for sure.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for
having
being
me.
a
It's been
guest.
great.
And hopefully we'll catch up soon. You'll catch me up on
Absolutely.
a group run.
Yeah.
I'll be slogging it in the back
No.
and then try and catch up with you.
That's
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.